What are some of the most basic things that have to happen in order to maintain our Kurdish identity in the diaspora?
Thanks very much for having me. An identity is often defined as a mixture of language, culture, religion, but in the case of the Kurds, we also have a unique history of suffering, oppression, wrongdoing inflicted upon us, which for any Kurd to be Kurdish has also to be mindful of that unique history. For Kurds in the diaspora, I think there are two important elements that would keep us alive as Kurds. Number one is having a strong, cohesive community that brings the new generation together, and because especially in a country like the United States, where the culture is so overwhelming, you cannot be on autopilot in order to maintain your Kurdish. You really need a community that teaches the younger generation, the children, the youth, the language, what it means to be Kurdish, the history, the goal setting, and the motivation that the Kurd needs wherever he lives. And of course, for that community to be strong, it also has to be homegrown and grassroots. Unfortunately, the Kurdish community in the United States is still being led politically by political groups back home, and often that sort of leadership will not be effective because the goals and the designs are set up back home, which may not be compatible with what a Kurdish community may need in the diaspora. Therefore, it's a task for the Kurdish community to be active, and then from that community, the homegrown leaders should emerge who would be able to help the community on the ground and design goals for that specific community while here. So it would be a Kurdish community in the diaspora with Kurdish goals and Kurdish programs right here, not an imported program, even if that plan is being imported from back home. The circumstances are different, the challenges are also different. Therefore, the programs and the leadership should be someone who is well positioned to address that. The second element would be the role of family, because I should have probably mentioned family first, because family is where you learn your language and your tradition first. And if a family is the kind of family that encourages education, encourages language, teaches you literature, teaches you Kurdish food, plants in you the seeds of what it means to be Kurdish, then when that child becomes a youth and goes into the community, he will not only be affected by his surroundings, but he or she will be also able to affect that community. And to tie the role of family back to the role of community, I think a good member of a good and strong family would lead to the growth of strong charactered individuals, and the hope is these kind of families will establish a community from which leaders can emerge.
All right. Piggybacking off of what you just said, what role then do those Kurds play in future prospects for an independent Kurdistan? You mentioned this idea that you should gear your efforts as a student, regardless of what major you're pursuing, towards bettering a Kurdistan in the future. Would that then apply to perhaps young Kurdish leaders today who are aspiring to do the same thing for their homeland on a political scale?
I think every Kurd should ask him one question. How can I be a strong building block for Kurdistan? And oftentimes that Kurdistan could be defined in the terms of today, but could also be defined in terms of future. But a good brick is always a good brick. And would contribute to a strong building. So at the individual level, we should be able to be that strong brick to contribute to a prosperous, happy Kurdistan. And any process of nation building is going to rely on its own people before it relies on helps and handouts from others. So you do what you can do best today, and gear yourself to be a very good element for the future. And then in terms of independence and nation building, part of it is an internal factor in how cohesive and how coherent we are, but part of it is also elements that are exogenous and outside our control. So we can do our part and then wait for providence or international relations circumstances. When the moment comes, we will be ready.
Do you think that moment will occur in our lifetime, or do you think it might take a few more generations for it to happen?
For me personally, the goal is a happy, prosperous Kurdistan. Now, if that could be achieved through statehood and independence, then be it. But if that goal can be achieved through another mean, then I'm definitely for it. The ultimate goal should not be a political status, but rather a happy, prosperous people. If the current circumstances of Iraqi Kurdistan, in which federalism, in which the Kurds have I want to say offered, but actually grabbed and took federalism, if that's going to achieve that goal, then I would definitely support federalism. But if that doesn't, then Kurds should have the options. But again, just as federalism was not something that we were offered, but something that we took, independence is definitely going to be like that. And again, the question is, how do we make ourselves and the future generations ready to be able to answer and react to the circumstances and the opportunities that they will be faced with.
What one word then would you use if you could only choose one word to describe Kurds in general?
I would say tolerance. One quality of a Kurd is that he or she is tolerant, tolerant of wars, tolerant of diversity, tolerant of the harsh mountain lifestyle, but above all, tolerance of the other. A Kurd is tolerant to other ethnicities, other religions. If you take a drive from Erbil to Duhok, you can't help but pass through Muslim villages, Christian villages, Yazidi villages. If you go to a town like Shaklawa, you see that in the Muslim Eid, the Christians and the Muslims celebrate together. During Christmas, many of the households, Muslim and Christians, lit up their houses at night. It takes you a specific question of what is your religion in order to know who is Christian and who is Muslim in a town like Shaklawa. This has been one of the defining characteristics of Kurds. But again, my hope is that we stick to it, because tolerance is going to get us farther than intolerance. And yes, we have been wronged by neighbors, by maybe other ethnic groups and other nationalities in our neighborhood, but we should not forget who we are and lose one of our defining qualities just because we are reacting. We should know who we are, and we should stick to who we are, because it's always your defining characteristics that moves you forward, and not reacting to the wrongdoing of the others.
Bilal, thank you for the interview.
Thank you.